fucked that up. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about my experience when I bought my BMW, kind of the processes I followed and the things I was looking for in the marketplace for a new used car. A new used BMW. It's different. I picked up my BMW about 3 years ago now. It's been awesome, guys. I loved that car. I have always wanted one. Ever since I was in high school, I had a few buddies that one of them had an E36 M3. Zach, if you watch this, shout out you. Ryan had a 335 Ci, which I totally loved. It was all blacked out lower and it just looked so dope, and I loved the BMW kind of vibe. I loved the mods that people did to them. I loved how they looked when they were modded. I loved everything about it. So I knew I wanted one way long ago, and I finally at the age of 23 was able to have put enough money aside and was in a place where I could actually afford to buy like an actual newish car, like a somewhat new car, because everything else that I had been driving was at least 10 years old. Like, it was not new by any means. So being 23 with a little bit of cash to spend on a car, I was due to make sure that I spent as little I could on the best thing I could get. So my point there is, a lot of people say like, why'd you dump all this money into a 328? Why didn't you get a 335? Why didn't you get an M3? All this good stuff, right? Everyone has an opinion. What a lot of people don't understand is like the mechanics behind that decision. Like I said, I'd been driving, I had an 04 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and before that I had a 1999 Volkswagen Passat. So like old cars, not new, not really that expensive in the price scale. So this kind of was my first big boy buy. I had the money saved up, so I started looking around at Craigslist, you know, like cars.com, all those different automotive websites that you can find used cars on. What I noticed is little to no maintenance records were found on these cars. There's no Carfax included. Typically you have to pay for it separately per VIN that you want to look up. So I wasn't really getting anywhere with that, and I don't remember how. I think someone tipped me off to the CPO thing, certified pre-owned, if you're not familiar, which is basically a certification that a dealership can do to a car that's been returned to the dealership. They go through the whole car and make sure that it meets all the specs that it needs to meet in order to be resold as a used car. So I started looking on every BMW dealership website I could find within probably, like, I was looking everywhere, like all the way down to New Jersey, trying to find a stick shift 3 Series F30, and if you've ever looked, it's not easy to find one. Actually, I found a couple cars closer to my neck of the woods that kind of fit the price range and mileage that I was looking for. I really wanted something sub 30,000 miles. I actually ended up finding one that I test drove. I just didn't really like it. It had a lot of scratches and buff marks, and it looked weathered. It didn't look as nice. I went up and found a 3 Series that I liked on the internet in New Hampshire, and I spent some time, drove up there, test drove it, looked at it. It was certified pre-owned. It had 32,000 miles on it. It was a one lease owner, meaning that someone had leased the car. They had all the maintenance records, because as it goes with leases, you have to maintain the vehicle. If you don't maintain the vehicle, I'm not really sure what happens, but they either like charge you, or I don't know how that goes, but pretty much expected to do the oil changes, expected to follow all the normal maintenance that the dealership requires. So I knew that this car was maintained, and being a one owner lease owner, I knew that it was just a pretty well maintained car. This person wanted it, had to take care of it, and then gave it back. And then BMW then went through the entire car and made sure everything was good and replaced things that needed to be done, like tires. I think they did brakes, and obviously fluid changes and whatnot. Being 23, I didn't have a whole lot of cash on hand to put down on a car. I think I probably paid in cash, between selling my Jeep and just the money I had saved up, pretty close to about 9 or 10 grand. I was planning to finance the remainder, so my goal was to finance no more than 20 grand, and I didn't want to have like a crazy interest rate. So I test drove my car. I liked it, I loved it. I got into the negotiations with the dealership, kind of talked them into my price range. They were asking about $24,500 for the car. The 2013 328 base model, really nothing upgraded on it. I wanted to get them closer to about, honestly, I wanted to pay like 20 grand for it. I wanted to get like 4 grand off. So I started really low. We kind of just did that little, you know, salesman buyer back and forth for a little bit. He kept trying to get me really close to 24, and I was just like, dude, if you can get me out the door with plates on the car and a key in my hand for 23, then we have a deal. I made that little bluff, and about 2 hours later, he calls me while I'm at dinner with my dad. At the time, I was saying like, I don't know what to do. Do I come up to his price? Like, what should I do here? Because I really want the car. And sure enough, he calls me at dinner, and I'm like, Dad, I know we're eating, but I gotta take this call. He says, listen, Connor, I talked with my manager. We can get you out the door at the 23. Right then and there, I told him, okay, I will come up there, I will sign the paperwork, and we'll get this underway. That's kind of the process of how I bought my car and the scenario that I was in. So when a lot of people say like, why didn't you get the more expensive car? It's because that's literally what I could fit in my budget. If I went with a 335, I would have had to take out a bigger loan, and it would have set me further away from actually modding the car because I'm paying off more money on the loan, right? The like 5, 6, probably more. I didn't really look that seriously into 335s, but the 5 or 6 more grand that I would have had to spend on a certified pre-owned used 335, all that money could have gone into building it, but it didn't. It wouldn't have, because I would have had to spend the extra money. So I like the 328. It looks the same as the 335 mostly. It's fast enough, man. Like, I don't track the car. I don't know. I don't need to go like crazy speeds. I just wanted to drive a sweet looking 3 Series. Now 3 years later, the car's been modded. It is really freaking fast. Like, I don't need a car any faster than what I'm in, to be honest. Without rambling on, I guess that's my point, is find your budget, find what you can maximize within your budget, but also think ahead. If you plan to mod the car and you plan to do things like wheel suspension, engine mods, performance, exhaust, the list goes on. If you plan to do a lot of that stuff to your car and you want to do it fairly soon, then maybe spend a little less on a different model, or like in my case, the 328. And then I had that extra 3-4 grand to actually put into the car and make it how I really wanted it to look. I didn't want to drive a stock 335 for 2 years before I was able to actually afford to mod it and stuff. That's my point. But let's get into the next topic. You're in the market for a new BMW, and you are not really sure what you're looking at or maybe where to start. You have a few different options. Obviously, 1, you could go to the dealer and buy a new BMW. 2, you could buy a used BMW from the dealer. 3, you could buy a certified pre-owned BMW from the dealer. Lastly, you could buy a privately sold used BMW. First, figure out what you're actually willing to spend, and then don't budge on that. A lot of people will say, I want to spend 20 grand on a new car. They get to the dealership, their eyes get all wide, and they end up spending 30 grand on a car. Find out what you want to spend realistically, and again, plan ahead for what you want to spend in the coming months or a year, and then figure out what your actual walkaway price is for a new car. Once you've done that, decide if you're going to go maybe through a dealership or a private seller. If you go through a private seller, especially for a BMW, it's my biggest thing is just make sure there's documentation. Don't just have them say, yeah, I changed the oil every 5,000 miles. Chances are they didn't do that. You know, if you have paperwork and documentation on the car, you can physically see what its history is. So the dealership provides that. Private sellers don't necessarily go out of their way to put that all together for you, but you should ask for it, because if you're spending that much money on a new car, I'd want to know where it came from and its history behind it. Another thing to think about too, has the car been previously modded? If the car has previously been running like a stage 2 aggressive tune and full bolt-on and straight pipe, and they slammed it and drove it around like my car, right? I take great care of my car, but chances are that car's been beaten on a little bit, right? And is that something you really want to dive into and then remod to kind of bring it back to that spec or whatever it was, assuming the person didn't already part out the car? If the car came with all those parts, that's your ball game, man. If you want to pick up someone else's build and build upon that, that's a whole different ball game, and you have to definitely have documentation, probably warranties on all the parts they bought and all that good stuff. But for me, I would probably just try and find a stock BMW and build from there. So kind of like the last segment for this video, and I know I'm talking a lot, this isn't really like a typical vlog. I think it is really informative and will probably and hopefully help out a lot of you guys that are either looking looking to pick up a new BMW or maybe any other used car. I mean, the tactics can be applied to anything. Once you've found the car you want, so you say you found it at the dealership and you are happy with it, it's got the mods you're looking for, it's M Sport, you know, it's got some goodies. Now you're ready to buy it and you've come down to a price, and now you're at a point where, okay, how am I actually going to pay for this? So if you're like me and you had some cash that you wanted to put down, that's a great idea, because the more cash you put down, obviously the less your monthly payment's going to be, because it's a less sizable loan. So you know how much money you want to put down on the car cash wise. Now it's pretty much a game of interest rates. So you know you're going to take out a loan for X amount of money. You want to shop around with your banks, maybe the banks you already work with or new banks. I actually ended up going with a bank that I had never used before, never had an account with, but after kind of discussing with them, they were able to get me the best interest rate, which was actually, for an automotive loan, I'm in the 2s, which is, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but it's in the 2s, which is crazy. It's just crazy for an interest rate. Most interest rates are in the 5s, maybe even the 6%. Do your due diligence and shop around, because when you're taking out a loan, you don't want to be paying interest more than you have to, because that's just increasing the overall cost of the car. With depreciation and all that, you want to pay it off kind of as quickly as you can and not worry about interest rates. Shop around for the interest rate that fits your budget and your outline. And then also make sure you pay on time. Paying on time is crucial, and the way I just set it up at my job, I had direct deposit set up for one account, which was like my personal money that I used for spending, and then another account which was at this new bank that covered my auto loan. And each paycheck I had them take out a certain portion to put into that auto loan, so I was always paid on time. In fact, it was always paid a few dollars more on time each time, so it actually just helped me pay it off a little bit faster. So I think that pretty much covers it. That's pretty much how I went about buying my car. It really comes down to doing your due diligence on the model, the specific engine, and like base model, M Sport, you know, all that good stuff. Make sure you do your shopping before and you know exactly what you want, so that way afterwards you know what you're getting. For example, I didn't know about the headlights. I didn't know, actually when I bought my car, it came with those shitty halogens for the F30. I actually saw, because I went there finally to go inspect the car, and it was kind of like nighttime dusk, and there was light hitting the front of the car, and actually those little like fake halos that they put on those, I don't know if you guys noticed that, they're a little reflective, so I actually thought the car had halos when I bought it. No way. The car was super base model, and I didn't do my research beforehand, so I didn't know it didn't come with like the better interior, it didn't come with the M Sport bumpers, it didn't come with the comm control in your interior, so that way you can hook up Bluetooth to your phone. So to this day I still use a cord to plug in my iPhone so I can listen to music. Do your research, guys. Just make sure you know what you're buying and what you're getting into. But that leads me to into another good point, is like I saved a lot of money on the M Sport conversion, because it would have cost me about $4,000 to $5,000 more to get the M Sport from the dealership, instead of just doing the bumper conversion and, you know, the stuff, different stuff here and there. It's still not true M Sport, but it's pretty much M Sport. So lastly, this video was all over the place, but I did think it came with a lot of good knowledge, and I hope that you guys gained something out of it. I hope that you guys enjoy your buying process. It's a lot of fun, like shopping around. It's a big game to me, like between money, saving money, getting the most out of it. Like, it's a big game, and I think if you come out on top, then you win. So actually, before I let you go, quick channel update, just across the board, I've got some news on the Prelude. Not necessarily good news, not necessarily bad, but it's definitely not good. So I'm gonna introduce that in the next video. Also, going along with that, something going on with the F30 that I need to kind of change up, pretty much because of the Prelude. So stay tuned for that video. That'll be coming up soon. Lastly, new merch is coming up. This isn't my merch, but I do have the design pretty much finalized. The new drop will hopefully be coming here in the next month, so I feel like I've been saying that, but it's actually coming, guys, and I'm really stoked for you guys to see it. I just wanted to take the extra time to make sure it was something I truly loved and something that really represented the brand. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Anyone who's ever picked up merch, who's supported the channel, who has watched my videos, thank you. This thing is still growing, and I'm utterly stoked to be a part of it and be building this. So thank you, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Peace.